My next question is in your interview with Andrew Leonards, which happened in May 2020, you were mentioning about warm power versus sharp power. Also, hashtag Taiwan Can Help. This is a very important concept in the 21st century. So the world should shift from competition to collaboration. So is warm power coming from Taiwanese culture? Or since actually Taiwanese people are very, very warm to me. So how did you accelerate it with the power of the internet?
Yeah, I think, of course, the Taiwanese people are very much like pro-social, and the pro-socialness is amplified through the internet by making sure that people work out loud. There's actually a book about it, and working out loud meaning that just sharing what I'm working on, like this interview, is not just for the two of us or for reader of the book. Actually, we're going to publish either as a video or as a transcript everything we have said, and so basically dedicating it to the commons. And by commons, we mean that people can take it, and like the rap band, those monos in Japan, they maybe take whatever we have said and sample it into music, and that's fine too, right? And so the point here is that if you work out loud, you can meet people who take the kind of work that you do and innovate on the direction that you did not anticipate. And that builds social relationships much more easily than if everybody have to sign a contract and pre-agree on whatever deliverable there are. Of course, there's a role of contracts in the financial sense, in the business sense, but a social contract in which that people agree to give more into the commons than we take from the commons is also very important. And that's the underlying idea of Taiwan Can Help, in that we are much more willing to help than we take from the international community.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. So in your perspective, what's our biggest impact of hashtag Taiwan Can Help? Which kind of things happened based on this hashtag?
Yeah, for example, there's a website called Taiwan Can Help.us, and that asks who can help. Taiwan Can Help. And the great thing about this website is that it's not run by the government. There's zero government funding in it. It's just YouTubers, people who crowdfund and crowdsource the entire content. And just this morning, I actually went to the massive online open course, the Hahao channel, which you can see in Taiwan Can Help.us. If you scroll down a little bit, where they recorded from our vice president at the time, Dr. Chen Jianren, the crash course on COVID-19, because he literally is not just the vice president at the time, but actually wrote the textbook on epidemiology. And so this idea of people pulling in useful resources, sharing it with the international community, with the English dubbing and subtitle and so on, signifies the idea that Taiwan Can Help is not just a government thing, but rather everybody in Taiwan can dedicate, for example, a few masks for the international humanitarian aid. You can also see that in Taiwan Can Help.us. So it shows the diversity and the cross-sectoral participation.
Okay, great. And then a little sub-question from that answer is, I personally think, because I'm doing an AI project, this time in a pandemic, including infodemic, some people are lacking of the science thinking, like thinking like a scientist, and then got panicked from the false information or biased information in social media or television or newspaper or someone else in the town.
Yes.
So science thinking is becoming more important nowadays, especially for things like pandemic. So what do you think about it? And then how can we improve this science thinking?
Yeah, definitely. I think the scientific method is something that people can practice. It is not just a abstract idea that you just learn about in school and then throw away. It's something that you can just keep doing, right? The idea is simply to learn about a basic priors or basic facts. And that's what the government can help, for example, with the vice president recording crash crash courses about coronavirus, or the Central Epidemic Command Center holding live press conferences every 2 p.m. During the pandemic and answer all the questions from the journalists, and that gives the basic observations. But now, based on observations, part of science thinking is you can form your own hypotheses, and through induction and through experiments, you can deduce new ideas and propose it for the community to evaluate, to replicate, basically. For example, there was a person named Lai Chunyu who tried to use the rice cookers and to disinfect the mask, and you can actually see the rice cooker right there.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And then basically, Lai tried to put the medical masks in such traditional rice cookers, which, unlike the newer IH cookers, they don't have a ventilation hole, and so that makes the heating model very predictable. It will very quickly heat up to 110 Celsius and then very quickly cool down. And because of that, in the few seconds where it reaches more than 100 Celsius, it kills off the virus but doesn't destroy the material of the medical mask. And so he basically outlined the procedure of doing so and then share it with the community. Now, because the medical masks are theoretically one-time use, of course, the Taiwan Food and Drug Administration is quite skeptical of this idea that you can somehow reuse it. But then the TFDA did their own experiments, and much to their credit, they invited Mr. Lai to the daily press conference to teach the evidence of the hypothesis, while the minister Chen Shizhong actually cooked a medical mask in a rice cooker in front of all the people watching the live stream. So this is just one simple example, but it shows that science is something that we all participate and we can all replicate. It's not that just for a handful of scientists. Everybody can be a citizen scientist. And when it comes to reusing masks, these experiments are being replicated around the world. And nowadays we see from peer-reviewed journals that this even works for N95 masks.
That's a great story. And then similar question is, this time people got confused between the fact and opinions. And then many Japanese people believe like news is a fact, but the news can be biased because of the sponsor, because of the owner of the newspaper company. So as a scientist, scientists tend to think to believe in the fact supported by the evidence. So this kind of way of thinking is important, I think. But what do you think about it?
Well, I mean, even if there's no bias in the people running the news organization, the source that they collect those ideas from may be biased. And even if they use the most rigorous methods, like data science, still, if you have the wrong expectation of the data, then you may collect the data, but then accumulate data bias without realizing it. So there really is no escaping of bias. And what people can do is like listing an ingredient in the food label to list exactly what are the sources. Like in the journalism, if they use a research paper, it helps, of course, to include the DOI number so people can fact check themselves. And if we're doing data science, it also helps to list the data sets that we actually draw our conclusions from, so our peers may evaluate independently. So I don't think any single individual can be free of bias, but what we can do is to list our sources so that other people may benefit from independent verification. That's the beauty of that scientific method. It grows with the community.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Yeah, thank you very much.